apologize for my tardiness, but thank you for joining us today. Today is the first day of June, and so that means, among other things, it's another month, beginning of another part of our year. It's also the first day of Pride Month, and it's an opportunity to raise awareness and advocate for issues that face the LGBTQ+ community, and is celebrated in honor of the 1969 Stonewall riots. Here in Savannah, the proud Savannah Task Force has already made a meaningful impact on our city by nearly doubling our Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index in its very first year. And so we're looking forward to increasing that score again this year. Last week was a busy week for us. As you know, on Wednesday, the largest ship to call on these parts, and certainly the largest ship to visit the southeast of the United States, visited here to Marco Polo. I had the pleasure of being aboard that vessel on a very long journey from about 20 miles out in the ocean to the Georgia Ports Authority. I have been absolutely impressed, and there's so many people to thank, because for that, the largest ship that we have seen, a little shorter in its length than the Empire State Building, 4 football fields was the number that I was given, 3,500 containers on board, and 9 stories above the top of the deck, and a really phenomenal crew who guide this big ship around the world, from the Suez Canal to New York, Port of New York, New Jersey, to Norfolk, then to Savannah, then on to Charleston, and then back up again. I definitely want to thank the Georgia Ports Authority for the work, and obviously a very meaningful achievement for us. For every ship that comes in, some people look at the beauty. I see jobs. I see opportunity. I see Savannah positioning itself as the logistical corridor for shipping goods to go around this nation. I definitely want to also thank the Savannah River Pilots, which I've been made an honorary river pilot. And for those of you that don't know, I had the experience to live that life with them. You know, we rode out on a smaller boat, and I'm glad I did not eat breakfast that morning, because the waves were very, very rough. And we ride out to a number of ships actually that were anchored, docked kind of in a vectoring fashion, waiting to be allowed to come in. And we had to climb from the smaller ship onto the Marco Polo, which was still moving. Both ships had to continue to move. They didn't tell me that before I went on this expedition, and had to climb up a rope ladder from the ship, from the boat onto the ship. And the only thing protecting me from these 2 ships moving is this rope ladder. But I went ahead and did it, and again, massive ship, and I'm looking for the Lido deck, and I'm looking for where I'm going to sun myself, and it's not that kind of ship. But the river pilots do an excellent job. As you know, they guide every ship coming into our channel, and I see exactly why. We have a very narrow channel, a very tricky channel, and there are waterways that I never saw before that obviously these ships have to know exactly when, where, and how to turn. If not, disaster occurs. Then we have the tugboats, and we have what are called docking pilots, and these are the individuals who are responsible for parking the ship. And so we go up past Savannah, and again, Savannah turned out in big ways, massive amounts of people. We went up past the ports, and then there was a turn basin, as they call it, in which the ship is pushed and manipulated, where it's turned in a 100-degree angle. And then the docking pilot actually parks the ship. So again, wonderful experience, and again, I want to thank everyone involved for that opportunity. There'll be bigger ships, and so as a community, we really have to start thinking and talking and discussing what does this mean? How do we allow for economic development but still protect our precious waterways and our aquifers? How do we do all of that at the same time? From there, I went to Fort Stewart for Hunter Army Airfield in Fort Stewart for its Community Leaders Day. And again, another wonderful opportunity for us to engage with our military partners, and flew on a Black Hawk helicopter from Hunter to Fort Stewart with the doors open. They didn't tell me that before I got on there either. But again, I was a glutton for punishment that day, but again, just amazed at the professionalism and the ability of our soldiers and our pilots. And again, a wonderful experience. We want to thank Major General Guto and the folks of the 3rd ID at not only Fort Stewart, but here at Hunter. We have about 5,000 soldiers here, 5,000 soldiers, 500 civilian folks, 650 families live on base, and many of them end up remaining here or retiring here. So we have to have and maintain a good relationship with our military community. As of 11:59 last night, Savannah's mask mandate, which has been in effect for 11 months, expired, but has been downgraded to a mask advisory, which requires masks or face coverings be worn by those who are unvaccinated, those with compromised immune systems, when in crowded indoor spaces, and those under 12 years old. I still ask businesses, particularly those with limited spaces, to consider requiring masks inside their establishments. The decision to do this follows the science. While our community transmission rate index has plateaued in the high 70s, currently 79, is still considered to be significant community spread. However, it is kind of hung out in the 79 range. Likewise, our hospitalizations are still trending down, which is a good thing, but our vaccinations are still down, which is a bad thing. Georgia is 33% fully vaccinated, and only 39% of Georgia's residents have had at least one dose. That falls below the national average, and our local vaccination rates fall below that. Right now, about 32% of Chatham County residents are fully vaccinated, meaning still 2 out of 3 of us are still not vaccinated. Approximately 37% of us are partially vaccinated, and in our surrounding counties, those rates are even lower. So although I'm fully vaccinated, you will continue to see me wearing a mask. I wore one the entire trip on the Marco Polo. And you will see me wearing a mask, particularly when I'm in the company of people that, frankly, I cannot determine whether they're vaccinated. And as a reminder to our citizens that COVID still poses a significant health risk to our community. We must continue to take it seriously. So I'm continuing to ask Savannahans, as people are visiting here from all over the place, wear and however possible, wear a mask. The interesting thing about it, if you look at our flu transmissions, I was told that about 20,000 people a year die from the flu, and I've told that this year only 2,000 people got the flu. And so I know for me, it's helped me with my sinuses. I have not had the sinus issues that I usually have, and again, my mask is going to be a part of my wardrobe for quite some time. Masks will still be required in city buildings, and our entry protocols will remain in place until further notice. We need everyone to know the facts and get the vax, and the best way to get back to what we're going to get back to and get to what we're trying to get to is to get a COVID-19 vaccination shot. We are being told by health professionals that they are possibly preparing for a fall surge, and so therefore it's important for us to still get our vaccination rates up, because we might very well be in the same position later on in the fall. And so if you've noticed, I've been quite judicious, quite thorough, even sometimes in the face of criticism. But we have done too well by being judicious and thorough, and we're going to continue to be judicious and thorough. So our COVID-19 vaccinations are widely available across our city in doctors' offices, pharmacies, and health clinics. Today, from 9 a.m. to 4 is the last day to get a vaccination shot at the Georgia Southern Armstrong Center. And we want to thank South Coast Health, who's been the medical provider at the site, and we appreciate their partnership. The vaccine clinic at the Savannah Civic Center will remain open on Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and both the Pfizer and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines will be available. On this Saturday, June the 5th, community partners will host a Hispanic COVID-19 vaccination day from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at MedBank, 836 East 65th Street, Suite 12 in Savannah. Again, both the Pfizer and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines will be available. Free blood pressure and blood sugar screenings will also be available from the Mercer University student volunteers, and we thank them for helping us out. Today, the city starts a phased reopening of facilities and programs open to the public. Some have adjusted hours and others are requiring appointments. And for details about each facility, visit savannahga.gov, savannahga.gov/reopening, savannahga.gov/reopening. Heretofore, our facilities have been closed to the general public, except for people that are city employees that are doing city business. And so therefore, we're moving into our new phase. As we transition into our new normal, there are some staggering realities that must be addressed. We are currently experiencing over a $25 million deficit in our water, sewer, and sanitation funds, simply because over the last year or so, considering the economic hardships and challenges that our residents have faced, we have pledged not to turn off water service. In fact, we have extended financial assistance through the United Way to help pay past due rent, mortgages, and utility bills. Some of these bills have not been paid since 2019, well before the start of the pandemic. And so now it's time for us to start collecting on these past due balances. We recognize there's been various types of financial assistance from the state and federal government that have been given, and we cannot continue to operate an efficient operation with having that much money outstanding. So we're always going to be willing to work out payment arrangements with those who need it. But for our city to operate, we must start collecting that which is due. So a word to our citizens, make those arrangements, but we will start not only collecting, but if necessary, enforcement actions on that. Likewise, we're going to have to start having courageous conversations about parklets and these other types of accoutrements, these types of adjustments that we've made to address COVID-19 capacity restrictions. Well, now that places are opening up, some of those parking spaces are needed. And so again, staff will be discussing ways for us to address how do we do that, whether we monetize it or we just, or something. But those parking spaces in a very busy city have value. And so we need to address that as well. City youth camps start next, City youth summer camps start next week. Registration is still open. As you know, the city will offer summer enrichment, art and recreation, and athletic camps from June the 7th through July the 30th. You can find details about each camp, including the ages served, camp hours, and locations at savannahga.gov/enrichment. savannahga/enrichment, savannahga.gov/art camp, and savannahga.gov/rec camp, RECCA. reimagine the city's recreation and leisure services, programs, and services, understanding fully that we live in a county and we need to work with our county partners at the county level and at the school board level. So please visit savannahga.gov/rec reimagine survey to share your thoughts, or call 912-651-6520 for more information, 912-651-6520. There's been a lot of talk lately about Yamacraw Village, obviously Yamacraw is an historic dwelling. More importantly, Yamacraw is a spirit. For over 80 years, our citizens have raised their families in Yamacraw. Some of the best jewels that Savannah has ever birthed has come out of Yamacraw Village. And so we are committed to Yamacraw Village, but we're also committed to decent and affordable housing. As it is right now, Yamacraw is in horrible disrepair. It will cost more to fix than it would be to demolish. And so be very clear that although Yamacraw has a demolition request in, I am not supportive of anything other than housing for those who live there. So we recognize that people might have to be relocated temporarily to make for the demolition, but again, I think the city of Savannah has shown through Sustainable Fellwood, through Ashley Midtown, the view that we're able to ensure that housing is utilized for those that it's meant to utilize. There's been a lot of talk for years about the highest and best use. That's a term that is very interesting to me. But again, my position on it, before you ask, is that it's been for housing. It's been for housing for some of our citizens that need it most. And my position, and I believe the Housing Authority's position, is that it will remain that way. So all the conspiracy rumors can go out of the window. That's where we are. Recapping last week's City Council meeting, we approved a $9 million contract to build a 2,000 space parking lot at the Savannah Arena site. And the lot will be on Gwinnett Street adjacent to the arena and will be the main parking area for the new facility. This gives us extreme flexibility over the next 10 years as we determine what mobility trends emerge, and it gives us time to help develop options as well. We also preventatively stop other undesirable uses from coming into that area, and so I think it's a win-win for us for the short term meaning 10 years. The City Council also took a major step in advancing our 100% clean energy goals by passing a resolution to protect Savannah's nature, waterways, and neighborhood streets through the management of an acceptable single-use packaging and products. And these items are for plastic straws, plastic bags, coffee stirrers, cups, utensils, and most plastic food packaging. Through this resolution, which only affects the City of Savannah government, we are trying to do our best to be able to not only aspire but to lead in phasing out buying single-use plastics and expanded polystyrene foam where we can, and transition to more sustainable packaging and products in the next year. We recognize that there are some things we cannot do this right now. For example, what comes to mind is print cartridges. That's a single-use plastic. And right now, the technology is just not there for us to have reusable. So we can perhaps buy recyclable products, but in terms of just getting rid of that, we just can't do that right now. But we will also, as we've said before, we will find ways to help small, local, minority-owned businesses interested in moving away from single-use plastics make that switch. And again, within the next couple of weeks, I will be announcing a citywide voluntary plastics reduction initiative to help get us ready to start practicing toward getting in that mindset.
I'm excited and proud of our council that we're prioritizing these goals to make our community more beautiful, more healthy, and more sustainable. We continue to encourage moms in our city to participate in a new effort to curb gun violence in our community. Local moms who understand what it's like to lose a child, they are partnering with the city to share 10 ways that every mother in Savannah can keep their children safe this summer. Whether they are 1 or whether they are 101, they're still your child. So we're sharing these tips on social media, and big thanks to our public communications office. And we're partnering with local news outlets to ask parents simply, do you know where your children are at 11 o'clock every evening? It reminds you to look or to call or to ascertain where your child, 1 or 101, is. And when you see the post, we're asking for you to share them on your page to amplify these reminders to everybody in our city. Do not forget to use the hashtags 10 ways 100 days SAV, 10 ways 100 days SAV, and of course, Savannah Strong. Together, and only together, we can help provide accountability and hopefully reduce these senseless acts of violence. Also, as you know, each week for the next 100 days, I will be sharing information about an unsolved homicide in our city in hopes that someone comes forward to provide Savannah police the information they need to remove a murderer from our streets. On May the 5th, 2017, just prior to 11 p.m., officers responded to the intersection of Georgia Avenue and Mississippi Avenue and discovered Desmond Lanier, 25 years old, deceased from gunshot wounds. Clarence Fleming, 23, was transported to a hospital where he later died because of wounds sustained in this shooting. If you know something, and we know somebody knows something, we want you to call SPD Violent Crimes tip line at 912-525-3124, 912-525-3124, or Crime Stoppers at 912-234-2020. As you know, tipsters remain anonymous, and they may qualify for a cash reward up to $2,500. So please let us help the family of Desmond Lanier and Clarence Fleming, 23 and 25 years old. Let's help their families get the accountability that they deserve. This Friday is National Safe Day, which aims to end senseless child deaths by educating parents about responsible gun ownership and encouraging them to ask about guns in homes that their child visits. SAFE is an acronym that stands for S, securing all firearms in your home; A, ask the question about unsecured firearms in homes that your child visits; F, frequently talk to your children about the dangers of firearms; and E, educate and empower others to be safe. Chief Mentor will tell you that many of our guns are acquired by opportunity, and we have to end the opportunity. So we need you to lock your doors. We need you not to leave your guns in your vehicles, particularly where someone can just open the door and grab them. We need you to be responsible and make sure there are gun locks, there are a variety of things available, and make sure if you're home, your weapons are in a safe, secure location. Saturday, June the 5th, is also National Gun Violence Awareness Day, also known as Wear Orange Day. And you see I'm wearing my orange today. It's a day where gun violence prevention supporters and advocates across the country wear orange to honor and support the victims of gun violence and encourage gun safety. That's on Saturday. But on Friday, we're going to celebrate and observe that here in Savannah. At 5:30, I'm asking Savannanians to join me in Johnson Square, wearing orange and standing as a united front against gun violence. So that's Friday at 5:30 p.m. At Johnson Square. Sorry, Chief, you're just learning about that. You'll get the memo in a moment. So I look forward to seeing all of you in orange on Friday. That ends my prepared remarks, And I know I've had to unpack a lot, but we'll entertain any questions you may have. We also will be excited to welcome Senator Raphael Warnock back home this week, as he will be visiting the Georgia ports, and I expect to join him at some point during the day on Thursday.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
Questions about the mask advisory.
Go ahead. Get my hands away.
With the mandate, I know if it wasn't followed, there was the potential for a fine. Is there any type of fine or anything associated with not following the advisory?
Not.
Okay.
There is not. Again, at some point, I think that we have been parental, and now we have to be big boys and girls, and we have to do the right thing. Unfortunately, there are people out that are not, I mean, if you do the math, if you have 2 out of 3 people not vaccinated, that means 2 out of 3 citizens are walking around without a mask on, and they know they're not vaccinated. So that's why I'll be continuing to wear a mask, because you just don't know. And so, you know, we'll allow people to make those decisions, but I think it's important for people to keep themselves safe.
And segueing into my next question, after seeing the crowds this weekend, as you just talked about, seeing as many people without masks as you did, and knowing that there's no way that everybody is vaccinated, are you concerned about the potential spread of the virus?
Of course I am. And I was out all this weekend, and our streets were lit. People were everywhere, and they enjoyed themselves, and we want them to enjoy themselves. Restaurants were packed. People were enjoying, and understandably so. It's been a long year, and our weather was beautiful. I can understand that. But on the other end of it, it's important for us to, again, make sure that we're keeping people safe. We have people that work in the hospitality industry, people that work in hotels, people work in various businesses. We have city employees. I want to make sure they remain safe. So the masks are necessary for them. And then, I mean, relatively speaking, we have not a desirable amount of city employees that have been vaccinated as well. And so we want to do what we can to make sure we mitigate the spread of this virus among our team. So.
My only other question for you is about the arena project and approving that parking garage. You had said that there were some undesirable that prevents some undesirable things from going there. What kinds of things could have gone there other than the parking garage?
It could have been anything. I mean, we don't own the property. So, I mean, it could have been a warehouse. It could have been a variety of things. So I think for us, it's a little preemptive. But then again, it allows us to have the space to be able to help to relieve some of the traffic that we have downtown, some of the parking issues. We might be able to park tour buses on that site as well. Again, and it might help to alleviate some of the parking challenges that we have in the downtown core. So it solves several problems for us, but it also provides us transition time to really look at where trends are. I mean, if there's more shared rides, if there are more alternate means of transportation, we may not need as big parking footprint in 10 years. So this buys us the time rather than us building a structure on there and then it's not full. So, time to tell. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, sir.
My only question for you, you kind of touched on it just now. You said there's not a desirable amount of city employees vaccinated. Any efforts to like you kind of just mentioned, any effort to kind of get that number up? I assume that a majority of them are vaccinated based on that.
Well, we've offered unique employee-owned opportunities, employee-only opportunities for our employees to be vaccinated. We want them to be safe. But we recognize, although we probably could mandate it, we won't. Gotcha. We'll make that be an individual choice. However, you know, we know when people have contracted COVID and they're not vaccinated, we know that, you know, it's been hospital stays, long stays, and again, they'll have to handle that at their own risk. But again, we want to make sure that that we protect other employees from them. Hence why we're still requiring masks in city buildings.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Since we are having facilities reopen, will they be reopening for events? Will the city also be doing the special events permits again? And, well, that's part
Great
one.
question. I'm glad you, I appreciate that because I was going to add, I forgot to even include that. So we're planning to, right now we're at 100. Events of 100, we'll be willing to move that to 250. And we will start allowing special use permits, provided social distancing is accounted for, and that'll be effective immediately.
Okay. All right. So my second question was about capacity. So that's the question that you just answered right now. We're
Right.
at 100.
They'll be approved on a case-by-case basis,
Okay.
and again, they have to be able to show a plan that they're going to properly socially distance. If we control the permit, we get to control the rules. So provided they can demonstrate that, again, we're trying to find ways to get our engines moving again. And so we'll do that. Again, we'll also do special event alcohol permits as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
So my only question really is, there was the announcement, I believe over the weekend, that 4th of July is back on. Can you talk a little bit about that? Seems like it's pretty exciting for the city.
Well, 4th of July has never been off. I mean, it's always been the 4th of July. I mean, it's like, still your birthday, even if you don't celebrate it, but I know your point. So we, again, are pushing vaccinations. We are hoping to move to a place where more people will be vaccinated, which is why you'll continue to hear me talk about it. But that being said, we think that we're on a trajectory that's safe enough to allow a 4th of July celebration this year. It might be somewhat different, it might be configured somewhat differently, but we'll see how that goes. But our plans right now, I believe we have a sponsor to sponsor the fireworks, and if that's the case, we have an acceptable plan, then we'll be having that on the 4th of July.
And then just some clarification on the use of the word mask advisory. I feel like that's very unique. I've never heard that.
With Savannah, where we are.
I know. I wouldn't expect anything less.
Right.
So that essentially translates to masks are highly encouraged but not mandated.
That's correct.
All right.
Right. As of midnight, and again, to your question last week about being vague, again, we wanted to wait till the last possible moment and see what the deal was. And again, we're plateaued. We have not increased. And so masks are strongly encouraged and are advised. It's not mandated, and probably by the time we leave City Hall, our sign would have been removed. Might be replaced with something else, but right now, the mask mandate sign, we'll keep it unfolded just in case we have to put it back up.
I heard it's already gone.
Well, probably. That's how the city of Savannah rolls. Efficient.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Just wanted to check in on the 4th of July, again, for clarification. You said, I have a sponsor for that event, yet we still have the special event permits in place. What's the timeline like for the special event permit? I know you said that goes into effect immediately with that 250 limit now. Could we see that even rolled back further by the time we get to 4th of July so more people can be in an area together?
It's possible. Again, that depends on metrics. So again, we're gradually moving forward, moving towards that. So yeah, I mean, it's very possible. Again, we're still looking at our COVID rates and our metrics on a weekly basis. So I think it's, provided we're moving and trending in the right direction, we might increase it or we might decrease it, just depending on what the numbers are. But now, the good part about we have a month now to look. We'll see what the effects are in about 2 weeks of the holiday weekend yesterday, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay. And to touch base on the, the collection of water bills, things like that, for those utilities that are outstanding for folks. You mentioned enforcement actions. What do those look like?
Well, I mean, there are people who have been delinquent. There are people who have not paid bills since 2019. And again, I think the city has gone beyond and above. I mean, we look at other municipalities across the country, they've been already collecting. You can't continue to have water that you're not paying for. And so the only carrot stick that we had was obviously turning off water. And so I think we are at the point now where we have to start collecting those funds. Again, there have been a variety of federal and state funds that people have been accessing. We've provided assistance as well, and so we're saying to either do one or two things: make arrangements with us, but start paying that bill. We have to start getting those bills down, because there's no organization that's going to be able to sustain itself with 2 years of accounts receivable that you're not collecting. So again, and some of this is not pandemic related. Some folks weren't paying before the pandemic started. So we're starting there. Some folks haven't paid property taxes since before the pandemic started. So we're starting there.
Sorry, I'm bouncing around here, but the COVID resource team,
yes.
Are they still going to be out and about?
They'll be reconfigured. We'll figure out what that looks like. We'll still have masks available. We will continue to provide that. But in terms of what their future role is, they also have regular city jobs, so they'll be utilized in those ways as well.
Okay, very good. And I think just the last thing for me, wanted to ask you about the workforce shortage. Still, I know I spoke with a couple of visitors in town who said it was noticeable that the lines were long. They were doing their best to keep up, and they were appreciative of that. But fact is, it still remains a problem. Have you heard about that being rectified in any way, or is there anything that we can still do from the city level?
Well, I think that the governor's actions in stopping the federal allotment will push some of that into play. The summer is here, so it's the worst of possible storms for us. But there are a lot of college kids that are home. So I think that'll take on some of that, and people will start returning to the workforce. So I was out again this weekend, and there were long lines of people waiting, half-empty restaurants and places because they just didn't have the staff to be able to accommodate the people who are coming here. That has to change, and so we're trying to find ways the city could be of help to recruit people for these opportunities. A unique opportunities here for if anybody who really wants to work right now can work, and so herein lies that opportunity. We recognize that the various stimulus payments and unemployment made it financially easier for people not to work. In some cases, it helped them to work a second or third job in some cases, or helped them to attend to their family and things. But again, I think that's really I think that was a red herring, so to speak. I think things are starting to normalize a little bit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anything else? You want to change gears or anything? Okay. Okay. I want to thank also, I believe it's the American Legion Post 135. We had a Memorial Day remembrance ceremony in the Bonaventure Cemetery, Section O, and as always, very fitting ceremony to remember those who gave all. All gave some, but some gave all, and we have to remember that we live and exist based on freedom that somebody died for. The other thing that really struck my mind as I was sitting during the ceremony was that there are casualties of war or casualties of service who did not necessarily die in combat. When people come home for the service, and I'm a son and a brother of veterans, when they come home different. They might have served, they might have survived the war, or survived the conflict, or survived the deployment. But their bodies are different, their minds are different, and although they might die years later, the fact was that the thing that changed the trajectory of their lives was that service. And so we have to remember those as well, hence why Veterans Day is so important. But it just dawned on me that, there were walking casualties of military service. And so, again, it was so important for me to spend time with our military folks and to continuously thank them because for what they go through you know, our country is better. So I want to thank you so much. Chief Mentor is here. If you have anything for him, I'm sure he's willing to be a part of what you need to be a part of, and we'll see you all later this week. God bless.